We're going to start off talking about how we think the season has gone so far. Obviously, just over halfway gone. We'll start off with you, Amir. A bit of a season review so far. Are you? I'm guessing you're happy so far with the season, but what's your kind of review of the season so far, and maybe expectations before the season started to maybe expectations now?
So I think the expectations have definitely changed. You know, if you're looking at it, I probably would have been happy with, you know, just progressing this season and, you know, seeing the football that we're playing and, you know, getting up in the league. But seeing how well we've done, especially up until that Chelsea match where we kind of lost our heads and, you know, went into a little bit of a slump, but we've managed to bounce right back from that. So seeing where we are in the league, seeing the progression in the style of play, and also, you know, seeing what Ange has done to the squad in terms of getting squad players to come in and perform at a very high level. You know, you're looking at players like Royale, who have covered 3 different positions when we've needed him to and done fantastically. I think that's a huge, huge change from the past few seasons. So I feel like we're way ahead of schedule to where I thought we'd be. I'm very optimistic about the run-in. You know, we're basically at a, you know, half B team really with all the players that we've got out at the moment. So with those guys coming back in, my expectation has gone from, you know, getting into Europe and doing all right and progressing this season to I want to win a trophy and Champions League minimum. You know, that's where I'm at the moment.
Wow. Tim, are you of the kind of same thinking? Because, you know, you cast your mind back to coming into the season. Spurs fans would have been happy just to be in the conversation for Europa League, never mind Champions League. And now it's almost a bit of a disappointment or a letdown, or if we don't get Champions League football this season.
Yeah, I could pretty echo Amir's words, really. I think I've said this on a couple of pods. I just think it is a free hit this year. And it's difficult, isn't it? Because I sort of thought start of the season, it is pressure off. It reminds me a bit like when England went out to Iceland, and then it was like a rebuild, wasn't it, under Gareth? And then that 2018 World Cup was a bit of a free hit, and we just seemed to start playing football again. So it feels a bit similar to that. But obviously, the position we were in, I think I'd probably echo a lot of Spurs fans' opinions. It's just so gutting, that Chelsea game, and then what happened afterwards with the suspensions and injuries. We knew we were really, really thin on squad depth at the start of the season, but had we got away with it, who knows where we would have been. I guess it's kind of like what could have been for me at this stage. But then saying that, you know, when we lost to Villa, I just sort of thought, Jesus, you know, we lost a few games in the trot. Are they going to start crumbling? Are the cracks going to start appearing? And as Amir said, you've got these squad players coming in where in previous seasons you're like, yeah, we're going to go down 2-0 at United, or you just knew what's going to happen. And it's just been the complete opposite. I mean, it's just been such a revelation, really, to get these, or just great coaching to get these players believing in themselves. To, you know, just because someone else comes in, we're not going to change the way we play, and they've just upped their game. It's like, you know, they say like average players play really good with good players. Well, a lot of these players that are playing for us have not done this in previous seasons. So you just got to put it down to Ange, and just the whole mood around the club. He's just lifted the whole thing, hasn't he? It's just I don't know. It feels like we're on a crest of a wave, really. And although we've had some really tough times with injuries, it's just every game's watchable. No one knew what was going to happen this season, especially when we've sort of lost those. You know, we had our bad patch on top of all the injuries, on top of all the suspensions. And I just think it's amazing. I mean, other teams have dropped points. I guess you could kind of argue that's helped us. But to be where we are, I think everyone's kind of with the same opinion. It just sets up the second half of the season to be, you know, to have a real push when we start getting these players back from AFCON, and Sonny comes back from his international duty, and obviously, well, God forbid, we got Maddison back on Friday. So it's just really, it would have been exciting anyway, because we've sort of overachieved, like you guys said. But I just think it's just been amazing. And for me, it's just the style of football being so different, because I just, that 4 years, and again, particularly towards the end of Conte, it was just getting everyone was losing the will, weren't they? And the sort of difference in the club, it's sort of I feel our club, when it's really bad, it's really bad. When it's really good, it's really good. There's sort of no in between.
Yeah, that's Ange Ball for you.
It is all or nothing. I mean, it literally is all or nothing. And I just quite like it. Again, it's just brought back the excitement of football for me, because you literally don't know what's going to happen at any point in any game, and it's great. And at least we're having a go. And I think like I said, it's a free hit this season. The fans would have accepted kind of wherever we finish, just to see some decent football. And we're getting it, aren't we? So, God forbid it. Well, we know for a fact the football's going to continue. Just hope the results go away as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you say all or nothing, and I kind of wish that there was all or nothing documentary coming out about this season with Spurs, seeing that Ange motivational talks and everything like that. I'd love to see it, to be honest. But Sim, is that what makes it even more impressive to be where we're at this season with what we've had to cope with?
100%. And I think as well, the fact that results took a dip because, we were getting used to not having any centre backs, and we had a lot of injuries to contend with, and it all came in one moment as well. So it was a lot to cope with. Yet the level of performance, by and large, stayed pretty consistent. And yeah, when you're dropping in quality and you're going from Van der Ven and Romero to Ben Davis and Emerson Royale, and you're going from Maddison to Lo Celso and all these different things, obviously the quality is going to take a bit of a dip, and that did happen. And it's hard to maintain the level of results we were in the first 10 games of the season, 8 wins and 2 draws, when you're missing those kind of such important players. But I'm looking more at the performances. I'm not concentrating on results so much. The performance level was maintained, and in that period, apart from Brighton, I can't think of too many teams who outplayed us, who out-footballed us. And that's the most impressive thing about having a manager like Ange Postecoglou sticking to his principles by hook or by crook. Doesn't matter who plays, doesn't matter what the situation is. We're going to continue to play our football. We're going to continue to play out the back. We're going to continue to play through the midfield. We're not going to just go long. We're not going to change up our tactics to ride an injury crisis. We're going to try and get through it, because what Anne said is, what if you just have an injury crisis and then you completely change up the way of playing because you perceive that you don't have the players to play the way you want? What are you going to learn about those players if you change it up? How are you going to know if the players coming in can cope with the way you're playing if you just change up the way because you're bringing in these players? The only way of learning about these players is by putting them in the situations, looking how they cope with the football you want to play. And that's how you learn who can cope with it and who can play with it. So I had a cough there.
He's got the Ange cough.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you learn about the squad. That's how you learn about who you want to keep around, and that's when you learn about your players. So that is the most impressive thing about Ange Postecoglou playing the way we have been over this period. And you include the fact that in the first 10 games of the season, when we had our first choice 11, we were absolutely dynamite. We won 8 out of 10 games. We were unbeaten. We were top of the league. And that goes to show the potential of this team and the potential where his football could lead. And in such a quick space of time, he was able to get us from the back end of last season, getting battered by Newcastle 6-1, conceding 3 goals in 20 minutes to Liverpool as well, losing that one, losing 3-1 at home to Brentford. He was getting us from there to winning 8 of our first 10 games of the season. That shows the potential. And then you add into that the level of performance we're able to show when we did have fringe players out. That just shows to me next season, or even second half of the season, once we do switch out some of the fringe players who we now know with evidence aren't that suited to Ange Ball, and we put into the squad players who are much more suited to play the way we want to play. And then if we have a full squad of those kind of players, that I think the sky's the limit. And that's the most exciting thing. I think it's been an astounding first half of the season. I think the injury crisis in a weird way has helped us in the long term. Short term, obviously, we're taking a hit, but I think in the long term, it's going to help us figure out who we want to keep around, who we don't. and all these different kind of things, and also it's going to help us with the squad keep that belief that this way of playing is 100% the way forward and it's going to benefit us. So I think to be in the position we are now is astounding. I think the first half of the season has been amazing when it comes to getting the fans on side and getting the players on side, and we're in a great position, 3 points off third place.
Yeah. Oh God. You talk about the injury crisis has helped us, and it's going to help us, figure out which players are suited and not suited. Have you learned anything new about any players during this time?
So, have I learned anything new? Ben Davis, he surprised me at centre back. Lo Celso being a real good part of the team now. Like when he's been called upon, obviously he's got injuries, but obviously we learn what he can offer the team when called upon. I think obviously we've learned that. I don't think we've learned it, but it's been confirmed that Højbjerg is just not suited to the way we want to play. You can maybe argue the same with Ollie Skip as well. But I think it's the most important thing is that Ange gets to see it firsthand, because it's all well and good fans having their opinions, but Ange is always going to have to see it before he makes a judgment. And I think that's what he's going to have learned from these players, having seen it firsthand now, because he's not going to just chuck people like Højbjerg and Skip by the wayside without having seen what they can do. And now he can see how they perform in this formation and in this system. And he can see they're just not perfect to it. Not that they're not up to it, it's just they're not perfect for it. And I think that's the main thing we've got to take away from these games. And also Brian Hill, maybe he needs to be moved on, things like that. We've learned about Richarlison and Son in different kind of positions. I think it was all a learning curve, everything we see, because it's a completely new way of playing.
Amir,
Sim,
go on, Tim.
So you just got me thinking, mate. So I just didn't even think about it that way. I guess what you're saying is bang on, because we haven't got any Europe, have we? So had we had Europe this year, even like Europa League or Conference, Ange would have had the chance to see the fringe players play, wouldn't he? He hasn't. So you're right. The injury crisis. The other thing I was just about to say, sorry to interrupt, but just we've got Maddison coming back. We've got Van der Ven. These players are not burnt out, are they? I mean, not only have they not had Europe, they've missed like three parts of the season. So you would hope coming towards that back end of the season, they're going to be like a juggernaut. As fit as they can be, not burnt out like a lot of the other teams on our rivals to the Champions League places. So potentially there's a double whammy, a bonus. So that the fact we've actually somehow managed to keep in contention, but those players being hopefully getting back towards the peak of their fitness towards the sort of mid part of the second half of the season. So I think that could massively work in our favour as well.
Yeah, I think Spurs are just going to go from strength to strength in this second half of the season. But going back to the first half of the season, Amir, who's really surprised you? Who's really stepped up to the plate, which maybe you didn't expect them to?
Well, I think it's my boy Royale. I think he has come in and he has really, he's played in 3 different positions. He's been asked to play centre-back. That's huge responsibility while Mickey was away and Kuti. And I think he's really stepped up to the plate and shown that, he can come in and be a great squad player, great utility player. And I think he's actually really improved his passing as well, knocking balls over the top. I can remember him playing some very decent balls in there. And I think Ange will be delighted about that. And I think, the proof is in the pudding, right? The Saudis came in and offered, quite a bit of money for him, and we just turned them down. So for me, he's a really improved player. Another one that I'd say, I've really liked him come in since Madders was out. Lo Celso has come in, obviously the goal up at the Etihad. He's done really well. The only issue we have with him seems to be his injuries. If he can somehow stay fit, but even, I'll take 3 months in a row, let alone a month or 2. I think we've got a good player there that can come in and, really help the team with creativity. And of course, the main man, Richie. What a player transformed. Last season, that's it. doing the pigeon. I mean, he's just, he's come so good in the last, 8-9 games. And long may it continue, because we've got a real player there who, he's so passionate. He gives his all. He chases every single ball down, which is what you need in this Ange system. And he's starting to finish his dinner finally, you know. And if we can continue providing for him with Porro, with Kulu, with Werner now coming in on the wing,
Maddison
if we can
back,
keep
yeah.
Maddison back, if we can keep providing that service for Richie, you know, hopefully he can get 15 to 20 goals by the end of the season. You know, he needs to be aiming high. And I did mention there Porro is another one who, you know, last season there were a few doubters about his defensive, you know, responsibilities. I think he's really improved that side of his game, and we know how good he is going forward. I mean, that delivery, unbelievable. And if he can keep doing that, what a player we have there. You know, no wonder he's been linked to some really big clubs. I just hope we can keep a hold of him. And one more that I think, well, two more that deserve a special mention. Big Vic.
Just mention the whole squad at this point.
Yeah, that's it. Well, no, Big Vic.
It's that way.
Big Vic, you know, he's just unbelievable. You know, the people that were crying when we didn't get Raya, I think just need to take a chill pill, relax a little bit. The recruitment's been fantastic. He's come in and he's just been immense. And yeah, the last one is Mr. Destiny. You know, I can't sing this guy's praises more. I think he's been the best left back in the league. His strength on the ball, his attacking capabilities, just unbelievable. And I think we haven't actually seen the best of him yet, because I kept a good eye on him out in Udinese in Italy, and he's so good going forward. I think we can expect more goals and more assists from him as the season goes on.
And you know, it's a good point you make on Big Vic Vicario, because I was one of the ones that was kind of up in arms when we didn't get Raya. I was like, why didn't you just put the money on the table for David Raya? Why are we signing this Vicario? Nobody's ever heard of him. But it's made that signing in itself has made me change the way I think a lot about Spurs signings at the moment. Because I'm thinking about it now, like, if we don't get this Nusa guy, or if we don't get one of these targets that's been spoken about in the press, I'm cool about it. Like, we'll just go and get the next one down on the list that's been particularly scouted for the system that we're about to play. So I know a lot of people around social media and people that we talk to, particularly in our WhatsApp group, go nuts if we can't get the one target in that we're going for that's in the name in the press at the moment. But the way I think about it now is completely different to the way I used to think about trying to get transfers in. I used to be so incensed that we have to get this target in. If we don't get the target in, the transfer window's a fail. But no, the way we scout players now and the way we identify the talent is so different. And I think it's such a plus to the way we're doing our business now. So I think that's a big thing. But another player who I think should be mentioned is Ben Davies in terms of one of the surprises of the season, because I think he's stepped in admirably well for the Van de Ven that's been out injured for the last 3 months. I think he's done such a good job for the team. But Tim, is there anyone else that hasn't been mentioned that's been a surprise for you?
The kit man. That's the only person that's left. He's done a great job. I love that kit. I mean,
Beautiful.
No,
Beautiful.
I mean, it just makes the point, doesn't it? Had we gone through this last year, what would we be saying? But for me, the biggest thing for me is the two players that came off loan, so Doggy and Sarr. Yeah, had it been Conte, we probably wouldn't even be seeing them playing, would we? So just what they've done with those guys. I mean, it's one thing send them out on loan, which I think was the right thing to do. But then to bring them back and just shut them in and give them the confidence to just start the season so well, it's just unbelievable. So, like I said, the hats have got to go off the scouting on this one, because this isn't an isolated incident, is it? The last 3, 4, 5 players have just performed really well. Had they performed under different managers, very questionable. It's just like the perfect fit for me. Vicario has just been the biggest. I think the biggest, not shock, but I just didn't know anything about him, like a lot of fans, and just the consistency. I watched him in the first game. He looked a little bit nervous, then he's a bit nervy, and a little bit. I wasn't sure, and then since then he's just been unbelievable. And again, how many points he saved us, it's just unthinkable. And I always say, you need a rock of a keeper, or you're going to go nowhere. And to come in, especially filling, I know Hugo's kind of like probably 2 seasons too late. He sort of left us, but to fill his shoes is just such a hard thing to do. He's just not. It's just like he doesn't care. It's the wrong way to explain it, but it's just got no fear. I just love it. It's just a lot of those guys have got no fear, and the thing we've been shackled by for years is fear, isn't it? Like you sort of seen, Eric's now left, good servant to the club, but always had a mistake in him, and that's just that fear sort of, it feels like it's gone. That's not to say it won't come back, but God, I don't want to say we're losing the Spursy tag because then I really will get battered. But I think we've got to make up a new name for it. It can't be Spursy anymore because it does feel like that era's kind of gone, hasn't it? Hugo.
It feels like it. Leaving. It feels like it. It's like a mental barrier, more than anything. It was like, that's what I feel. What I feel we've managed to destroy. I mean, you go back to that Sheffield game, when we're 1-0 down, and I was basically, I can remember being in the pub and just thinking, this is done, I'm going to go home miserable. And next thing you know, bang, bang, and we're back in. And that just shows the transformation that we've made, hasn't it, Tim? It's
and the more that's not one time we've done that, is it? So the more times you do that, you've got ultimate belief that, especially playing the way we're playing, on the front foot, that the chances are going to come if it is the 97th minute, 98th minute, because we've done it in the past, and then it's just changing that mindset now. The players, the sort of, especially at home. I mean, it's the same. We're behind. God we won't be, but up until the final whistle, I still think we've got a chance, and we've proved it, haven't we? We've done it at multiple games. We've done it at City away. We've done it at home. Sheffield United, like I said, 2 goals in the space of 2 minutes. That game was. I think Ben and Zimmer at the game went. I wish I was in the South Stand for that one. That would have been something else. That one.
In terms of the Spursies tag that you're talking about, Tim, I think we've transferred that over to Bayern Munich with Harry Kane and Eric Dyer, maybe even Kieran Trippier going there, to be honest. But Sim, do you think has there been anyone this season, this first half of the season, that hasn't maybe lived up to the expectations that you were expecting at the start of the season?
Who hasn't lived up to the expectations in a weird way? I mean, it's very harsh, but the way Basuma's dropped off has been alarming. Obviously, but you have to give him credit for the first 10 games. You can't just write that off.
Yeah,
and he was exceptional for those first 10 games, but his performances since then have been very bad, and even worse than I ever could have expected, to be honest. So they have to be a bit concerned about that, and hopefully he comes back to the AFCON with renewed energy. I know he's picked up malaria, but he did play last game, so hopefully he's going to be fit to play once he's back. I don't know what their situation is, if he's going to go out or not, but
they're going through.
So hopefully he went. Come February, he'll be okay. But I have to say, I've been very disappointed with his performances, because maybe it's just because of the high bar he set in those first 10 games, but he's got nowhere near that in his following performances, and has been very disappointing. So he's disappointed me. If I'm being very harsh, maybe Brendan Johnson. If I'm looking at our first 11 in terms of players who've played most frequently, he's probably been the weakest one. Not to say he's been bad, but he's probably been the weakest player in terms of consistently being at a certain level of performance week in, week out. He has had games where he's been anonymous, and maybe his delivery's not been great. I still think he's shown a lot of good things, and I think he's a very promising player. Sorry?
Good moments.
Good moments. Yeah, good moments. I think that's a good way of putting it.
I remember moments, not his performances.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. I think there's been times as well where he's given left backs a torrid time. I remember Villa at home and Newcastle at home, where he really had the beating of their fullback. So, not to say he's been a disaster by any stretch, but maybe he's one who can maybe improve on more consistently. Brian Hill, I thought maybe in this system could do a bit better than he has done when given the opportunity. So he's been a bit disappointing when I've seen him play. Other than that, no one's really. Maybe Ollie Skip as well. I thought maybe would have been a bit better than he has been, especially in that number 8 position. I thought he would have been a bit better on the ball than he has been so far this season. But other than that, I think everyone has played as expected. This is the kind of performances from Højbjerg I expect. I don't think he's been worse than what I expected this season. I think Lo Celso's maybe been a bit better. If I'm looking at fringe players, Kulusevski, he has been mentioned. I think he's getting back to his best. I've been really happy with him this season as well. I don't think he's been worse than expected. So if I'm looking at anyone else, I think it's pretty much as you expect.
Well, I think it's safe to say that we're 4 happy lads here after the first half of the season, the way the things have gone